presentation of petroleum tourism in Yemen is prepared to show the picture of Yemen in oil and gas investment that could be missed or inconsiderable by many visitors due to wrong political propaganda that is published against this virgin country previously. We like to draw the new visitors that Yemen is prosperous in oil and gas upstream industry, and CAMPO can provide general view of petroleum investment in Yemen. CAMPO can help in preparing your pre-feasibility study by providing more technical and financial data before submitting a visitor's offer and entering tender for acquiring the blocks. Our assistance is conducted with governmental bodies and in compliance with the laws standards to ensure transparent deal between international oil companies and the Yemeni government. The first commercial discovery was announced in 1984 in Yemen in Block 18 Marib Governorate and by Hunt Oil Company. The first well drilled by Hunt Company was Alif 1, which produced about 8,000 barrels per day that encouraged company to construct plants and pipelines that extended to Red Sea to deliver the oil through. After the first discovery, Yemen was an attractive country which new companies were interested to invest in oil and gas sector. The new 3 discoveries were announced in 1987 in 3 fields in Shabwa Governorate, which lead to enter in developing and constructing plants and pipelines to Bilhaf port that overlooks to Arab Sea. Yemen does not stop at this stage. Yemen has faced oil revolution in 1980s and 2000s when significant discoveries of oil and gas discovered in Hadramaut, Marib and Shabwa Governorates. In 1991, significant oil discovery in Block 14 was announced by Canadian Occidental Petroleum and new pipelines were built to Adabba in Shahir area in Hadramaut. That overlooks to Arab Sea, which first average daily production was 36,000 barrels, then increased to 230,000 barrels per day in 2002. In 1996, oil was discovered in Block 5 by Jannah Hunt, which was the operating partners of the block. In 1998, Total announced number of discoveries in Block 10 in East Shabwa. In 1999, DNO announced new oil discovery in Block 32 and started production and exporting through Masila pipelines in 2001. From 2001 to 2011, other commercial discoveries of oil and gas were announced and produced by several companies and in other different blocks, such as Dove Energy purchase in Block 53, Vintage, which is now Occidental Petroleum in Block S1, Nixon Petroleum in Block 51, DNO Company in Block 43, Cal Valley in Block 9, OMV in Block S2, DNO in Block 47, which he announced for commercial discovery of oil but has not produced yet from this block. The total oil production in Yemen reaches up to 438,500 barrels per day from those blocks in 2001. Also, the major discoveries was in natural gas, which lead 3 large international companies to have partnership in establishing Yemen LNG and constructing the first liquefied natural gas project in Yemen. Due to their big discoveries of proved reserves of gas that reaches up to 18 trillion of cubic feet and produce at average rate of 4,600,000 tons of LNG annually, and production began in 2009, and the LNG exported through Bilhaf port on the Arabian Sea coast. Yemen has a very good future in oil and gas, especially after the announcements of Sky News channel that Yemen maintains very attractive volume of hydrocarbons. Yemen is located in southwestern Asia, in South Arabian Peninsula bordering Red Sea, Gulf of Aden and Arabian Sea. Yemen lies south of Saudi Arabia and west of Oman. Yemen's area is about 500,000 square kilometers. Its size is comparable to Thailand and larger than the state of California. The population in Yemen exceeds 24 million. The majority of their religion is Islam, and non-Muslims are minorities that represents 1% or even less, who are adhering to Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, and atheism. The official language is Arabic, and English language is increasingly understood and spoken in big cities. The social structure of Yemen is tribal, that seeks to become civilian society. The percentage of illiteracy is high, that can reach 50% of population, but the government is struggling to provide universal, compulsory, and free education for primary level. Yemen is always the dispute point between powers because Yemen has unique characteristics of its location in the Middle East and has natural resources. Yemen is connected with African continent through its ability to control Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, which is one of what United States government lists it as seven strategic petroleum shipping control points in the world. Petroleum and other exports must go through Bab el-Mandeb before reaching Suez Canal or going to Persian Gulf through Red Sea. Therefore, this maritime transportation point is strategic connection between Mediterranean Sea and Arabian Sea, which lead Yemen to have good future in international trade. Bab el-Mandeb is very close to Aden and Mocha ports, and near Hodeidah port too, that can help the vessels to anchor safely to be provided with necessary fuel and stuff. As it is known that natural gas is considered as alternative energy source, Yemen has high potential reserves of natural gas, and referring to announcements of Sky News TV that Yemen maintains one of the huge reserves of petroleum in the world. In addition to oil and gas, Yemen has minerals too, such as gold, zinc, silver, nickel, copper, iron, titanium, basalt, quartz, pure sandstone, salt, and limes. The probable reserves of gold is about 60 million tons. The probable reserves of iron and titanium is about 860 million tons, and probable reserves of copper, zinc, and another metal is about 16 million tons. The geological reserves of lime is 4 billion of tons. Pure sandstone is about 2 billion of cubic meter. Basalt is about 142 million of cubic meter, and many other minerals. There are about 12 companies explore in 16 licenses for only minerals in Yemen. The economic resources are clearly variant among the governorates and regional places in Yemen, where the most proved and probable reserves of oil and gas is located in the east and south of Yemen, but the probable reserves of minerals is placed in north, middle, and west of Yemen. West and north part of Yemen was controlled by Turkey, whereas the other part was controlled by Great Britain, that was in 18th and middle of 20th century. The south and east of Yemen, which was controlled by Great Britain, converted to socialistic system, which indirectly controlled by Soviet camp, and other side of Yemen, which was controlled by Turkey, is converted to capitalistic system and indirectly controlled by United States. But in 1991, the two parts of Yemen unified, and capitalistic system has been chosen. Yemen has been a disputed area for international powers due to its strategic location. Yemen faced disputes regarding to political and geographical borders with its neighbors, either land borders or maritime borders, but Yemen resolved such disputes smoothly with some countries and via international arbitrage with other countries. After the Arabian Spring, that Yemen is one of the Arabian countries which were affected by the young revolutions against their autocratic regime. The current government seeks to take the advantage of the geopolitical and economical characteristics to attract new investments in Yemen. Oil companies and Yemen government established oil and gas pipelines that extended to ports which are overlooked to Arabian Sea and Red Sea. Red Sea and Arabian Sea ports are the most safer location for Gulf to export their petroleum through. Yemen exports its oil and gas from three main terminals. Ras Isa Oil Terminals, which is operated by Yemen Hunt Oil Company, which is now Safran National Company. This harbor of port consists of 409,000 DWT floating storage and offloading vessel, including its bow mooring, hoses, pipeline and manifold, and permanently moored 4.8 nautical miles offshore Ras Isa. The quantities of deadweight tons are equivalent to over 2 million of barrels. The terminal is operated 24 hours. It is used for exporting light oil from oil wells in Marib. Ashar Oil Terminal, which is operated by Canadian Occidental, now it is operated by Nixon Petroleum. It consists of between minimum of 70,000 DWT, which is equivalent to 300,000 barrels, and maximum of 300,000 DWT, which is equivalent to 2 million of barrels. The third terminal is Bilhaf Gas Terminal, which is operated by Yemen LNG. Its harbor consists of between 70,000 to 205,000 cubic meter, and the capacity of a storage tanker is 14,000 cubic meter. Bilhaf project is located 200 km far from southern west of Mukalla and 320 km for gas production fields. Petroleum exporting ports of Yemen contribute in economies of scale because they allow from Panamax small vessel to ultra-large crude carrier vessel that is used for long-haul voyage, which carries large quantities of oil across long distance and can anchor in Ras Isa port. Also, all petroleum terminals in Yemen are operated 24 hours. Yemen government and international oil companies negotiate their interests through contractual system of production sharing agreements. The production sharing agreement between international oil company and the Yemeni government has the following characteristics. Signature and annual bonuses represents 10% to 25% of what international company pay to other governments in the Middle East. Most of the exploration, development, and operation costs are recoverable except what is stated in the PSA. Many PSAs of Yemen does not allow international company to recover few specific costs such as costs incurred before rectification of production sharing agreement, except if international company take prior approval from Ministry of Oil. Also, the bank charges on letter of guarantee and financing costs and the bonuses that are paid to the governments are considered non-recoverable. Also, the corporate overhead such as cost of staff work in legal department, procurement department, finance department, senior management in the home office or its affiliates for the entire block, not for specific project in Yemen, is considered as indirect costs which can partially be recoverable based on sliding scale percentages. The minimum financial exploration commitment represents seismic and drilling activities. The government encourages the petroleum exploration and production investment in Yemen by placing low value of financial exploration commitments with international oil companies. Most production sharing agreements of Yemen divide exploration period into two phases, and period of each phase is 3 years, which can be extended based on the company's request, and the development period is about 25 years. International oil company takes cost oil and their share of profit, and the government takes royalty, bonuses, and its share of profit oil. Yemeni government legally retains the ownership of reserves that is located underground based on the terms of the production sharing agreements. However, the production sharing agreements of Yemen is giving international company the right to recover their costs, but it is limited up to 50% of production. Therefore, oil and gas companies recover their annual costs up to stated flat rate and forward the remaining costs to the next period. International oil companies are exempted from any kind of taxes except for the taxes stated in the production sharing agreements and withholding tax. The production sharing agreements require oil companies to pay the following taxes: flat tax, rate of total recoverable costs, withholding tax on payroll of local employees, withholding tax on payroll of foreign payroll who work in development activities, and the local income tax on profits, which is 35%, but it is paid by Ministry of Oil on behalf of oil companies. Yemen government and international oil companies negotiate their interests through contractual system of production sharing agreement. Under the production sharing agreement, which is abbreviated by PSA, the government retains the ownership of reserves that is located underground, and international companies have the right to share the production from sale of oil and gas after deducting the royalties and recover their petroleum finding cost and cost of uplifting in accordance with the terms of PSAs. Royalty comes right off the top. The royalty reflects small rates which is progressively increased based on the volume of production but not exceeding 10% in many PSAs. It depends on the volume of production. Before sharing the production, international companies are allowed to recover their costs out of the production. The cumulative exploration and development costs that are incurred and paid prior to the commencement of initial commercial production should be recoverable at the negotiable rate, and the operating cost is immediate recoverable cost. Both cumulative exploration development and facility and operating recoverable costs are limited up to 50% annually based on the negotiation with the government. All petroleum exploration visitors always like to know how much they will take from petroleum production. We like to present 2010 statistics of oil and gas, which is issued by Ministry of Oil and Minerals. Based on the 2010 statistics, the total gross production was 96,544,000 barrels of oil. Oil companies recover their costs by average rate of 20% of production and delivered at average rate of 2% as royalty to the government. The oil companies' share is at average of 21% of profit oil, and average oil companies take is 37% of gross production. That represent the cost oil and their share of profit oil. Based on statistics, the visitors can conclude that most PSAs of Yemen is made to encourage new visitors to invest in Yemen. Many PSAs in the Middle East provide oil companies less take rates than Yemen. The exploration, development, and operation costs are varied from oil company to another, and from drilling subcontractor to another. The level of education among local communities in the field site, and due to geological variation of formations, depth of available petroleum, and the mechanical malfunctions, and many factors that can cause different costs. However, we like to view the average cost of different nature of expenditures in Yemen based on our experience and 2010 statistics. Other countries in the Middle East. However, oil companies participate with government in developing the communities in many activities such as health, safety, and security activities. The signature and the annual bonuses that are paid to government is less than other countries in the Middle East. However, 2D and 3D seismic acquisition costs vary from company to another based on their needs, time, and difficulties of obtaining the services, but the average cost of such activity is about between $15,000 to $20,000 per kilometer for 2D seismic and $30,000 for 3D per square kilometer, which may be close to the cost spent in Saudi Arabia or Oman. Based on the 2010 statistics, the average cost of drilling well is 1,991 per meter for average depth of 2,450 meters per well, and took an average period of 51 days and at daily drilling cost of $96,110 per day. The average facility cost per well can exceed $1 million per well. That facility costs include Christmas tree, pipelines, tanks, flue splitters, separators, traders, site camps, and others. The average uplifting cost in Yemen is about $35 per barrel of oil produced and owned by contractor, and based on 2010 statistics. The average recoverable cost is $16 per barrel of oil produced. Yemen is considered as underdeveloped countries that need to be developed in infrastructures that the infrastructures are mostly not available in many field communities, which lead the oil companies to spend money for community development such as education, health, constructing roads, and water supply. In addition to security costs, the oil companies can go further for developing community with cooperation with government based on the company's strategies and policies, and all such costs are recoverable from production as per Yemenis BSA. Yemen is one of the Middle East countries that its technical probability of success is quietly good in average. Political risk can be a significant concern of international oil companies. The nationalization or expropriation of projects or assets is the greatest risk that oil companies can face. International expropriation is not an easy decision taken by Yemeni government because it can lead international business community to impose penalties on the government that takes such decisions, especially if it is illegal expropriation, even if the government companies say it's foreign company. Expropriation and exercising authority over foreign companies is not illegal in view of international law such as Article 1110 of North America Free Trade Agreement and United Nations Resolution number 1803. As long as it is done in the best interest of the country, for public purpose, non-discriminatory basis, and foreign company has been compensated at market value and paid immediately before expropriation took place. Therefore, if it is proved that the company acts illegally that lead to significantly harm the country's interests or harm the national economy by reducing prospective least acreage, company may face more realistic indirect expropriation risks that include increasing taxes, compulsory sale of natural resources via government's control, progressive labor legislation, or other activities controls that can be initially imposed when contracts signed with the government or imposed later when companies start violating contracts or working in contrast of society's health, environment, or welfare interests. Yemeni government is remote probable to any decision that may increase the political risk of oil companies. However, the security risks in Yemen is higher than political risks. Yemen government fighting terrorists in cooperation with the United States forces. The good news is many Al-Qaeda leaders have been killed by American shots through air raid and Yemeni anti-terrorism forces. But after the Arabian Spring, security and settlements that are created recently has not been satisfactorily resolved. The average internal rate of return for petroleum exploration investment in Yemen is high due to low rate of government stake, a limitation of non-recoverability, and volume-based sliding scale for royalties and profit oil. Ministry of Oil and Mineral announced that all the production sharing contract that was made for oil only is going to be changed to oil and gas production sharing contracts to enable investors either to produce oil or gas. Not merely, Ministry of Oil planned to provide international oil companies to to enter long-term production tests to enable those companies to evaluate the reservoir properly, especially when the government notes that most of commercial oil in Yemen is produced from basements, more than sedimentary rocks. The total concessionary blocks available based on statistics that issued by Ministry of Oil and Minerals for 2010 is 100 blocks. 45 blocks is open blocks, and 12 is production blocks, and 35 exploration blocks, and 8 blocks are under rectification for production sharing agreements. The exploration blocks are explored by 16 international oil companies, and production blocks are operated by 10 international oil companies. The first annual production was 2,647,000 barrels of oil in 1976 from Block 18 in Marib, which has been developed after that to increase the annual production to 69,050,000 barrels of oil in 1990. The total properties that produce oil during 1990s was 5 properties that are Block 18, 14, 5, 10, and 4. The production reaches at peak during 1990s to be 143,200,000 barrels in 1999. From 4 properties, and from 2000 to 2010, new commercial discoveries were announced for different level of production. Total wells drilled during 2010, the total wells drilled during 2010 is 87 wells, 54 is development wells, and 20 exploratory wells, 9 incremental drilling, and 4 injection wells. The number of successful development and exploratory wells is reasonable. There are 4 contractors that perform drilling services in Yemen. The total depth they drilled during 2010 is 213,400 meters, by total cost of $424,904,000 during 4,421 days at average cost of $1,991 per meter and $96,100 per day. The oil production in Yemen has been declined by annual rate of 4% since 2001. The decline in production is mainly referred to the following reasons: the corruption that was prevailed during the last regime that discourages new investment in petroleum exploration, and the previous production sharing contracts don't allow oil company to produce gas. The political unrest that was probable due to the aggressive practices which last government made against local field community that affect oil companies negatively. Security risks, which was the major cause of stopping investment in Yemen by new companies. Yemen covers with rocks that are aged date back to era prior to Cambrian. Basement rocks are some oldest structures dating back to 3 billion of years. Magmata, gneiss, and schist rocks represent such structures. Those rocks are spread for tens to hundreds of kilometers. Sedimentary rocks of Yemen goes back to the prime Proterozoic eon of ancient life. Such rocks are represented by sandstones, limestones, and mudstones. The geological time of Yemen's basins are Jurassic, Triassic, and Paleogene period. The major area of Yemen basins are Neogene period, Cretaceous period, and Paleozoic era. This map is published by Petroleum Exploration and Production Authority. It shows the geological period that is extended from pre-Cambrian or Archean to Pliocene. The Precambrian basement rocks are generally formed late Proterozoic in age. However, older late Archean ages have obtained from genesis south of Yemen. This type of rock includes meta-sedimentary schist, amphiboletes, and migmatite genus, and Precambrian granite, Mesozoic, mafic, and felsic dikes. The geological formations in Yemen consists or divided into groups and units. Akbara shell units reaches up to 130 meter thick, but the average of thickness is 40 and 80 meter. This unit is equivalent strata in Saudi Arabia, which has been dated as Permian using pollen. The main rocks are light gray siltstone and laminated dark gray shale, and it can be interpreted to be fluviogel in origin. I'm not sure how it is pronounced because it is geological idioms. Kohlan sandstone is medium-grained and medium-grained sandstone and siltstone, which is interbedded with dark purple and gray shale. Lies directly on granitic rocks of basement. Kohlan sandstone is formed in mid-lower Jurassic. Amran group is composed of massive marine limestone and thin shale interbeds. Limestone consists of dark skeletal micrite with skeletal waxstone and packstone. Amran group is determined in Caluvian and Tithonian period. Tawila group is silica clastic dominated sequence that crops out over large area of northern and central Yemen. Age determinations range from late Cretaceous to Eocene. Canadian Nixon is operator of Block 14, which is invested in Sayoun-Masila Basin. The reservoir that Canadian Nixon produces oil from has the following geological features. 1. The geological time of Sayoun-Masila Basin is Jurassic Cretaceous. The lithology of reservoir rocks of this basin, which currently produce oil from, is sandstone. The porosity of reservoir is between 15 to 20% at average of 20%. Permeability of reservoir is 10D and at average of 1500 MD. The initial reservoir pressure is about 1800 psi. However, Yemen faces many environmental problems such as water depletion and poor management of fresh water, soil erosion and desertification, poor agricultural practices, poor forestry management practices, overgrazing and overhunting, overfishing. The government issue environmental protection law and state an article for environmental safety and protection practices in the production sharing agreement to apply international standards for keeping environmental protection. Oil company that does not apply the required standards for safety and environment protection, it may be subject to penalties per production sharing agreement and environmental law. International oil company should obtain guarantee for subcontractor to clear the quantities of temporary importation of equipment and materials that are imported under umbrella of the production sharing agreement. Otherwise, the oil company may face difficulties with government bodies to clear its obligation in front of the government. This is related to the customs regulations. Regarding to the taxation in Yemen, oil and gas companies are exempted from all kind of taxes except for flat tax that is stated in the production sharing agreement and withholding tax. They are required to maintain regular accounting records and submit the joint venture financial statements and tax declaration that must be approved by the local certified public accountant on schedule. Otherwise, penalties will be imposed on the international oil company. Production sharing agreement is considered as law, and if there is any provision of production sharing agreement conflicts with the prevailing Yemeni law, the provision of production sharing agreement is considered on the account of law. The law can be taken if production sharing agreement does not cover the issues. Also, if the Arabic version has different explanation or wording than English version, the explanation of English wording will be prevailed and taken. International investors are free to move their capital and transfer their profit and assets freely in any currency they like, as per Yemeni investment law and accordance with the production sharing agreement. Yemen investment law, equal in treating the Arabian and foreign visitors. Also, the law allows the foreign visitors to lease or buy pieces of land or building, but the ownership is transferred to the government in according with the terms stated in the production sharing agreement. Yemen investment law prohibits the expropriation of assets or nationalizing the projects, but it gives the right to take the ownership of project or land if the company or project may harm the public interest and per jurisdiction, and with paying fair compensation based on the market value of the project and within 3 months of issuing the jurisdiction. The foreign employees are not supposed to exceed 10% of total employees in accordance with the labor law and the immunization requirements of production sharing agreement. Oil companies should retrain the local employees to replace the foreign staff. Regarding to the Social Security contribution of 6% should be paid by local employees, and 9% should be paid by employers. Also, this contribution should be applied for foreign employees who work in development activities. After generally presenting the historical, geopolitical, economical, and geological feature of Yemen, there are many reasons for investing in petroleum exploration and production in Yemen that attract the new investors. Proved, probable, and potential natural resources are estimated high based on announcement of Arabic Sky News Channel TV. Attractive geological formation, whereas strata exposed in Yemen extends from Archean to Cenozoic era. Yemen has 3 petroleum exporting ports, which the pipelines are extended to them and enable the company to export and sell its commodity of oil at low cost. Yemen Production Sharing Agreement is one of the attractive agreements in the Middle East that enables the international oil companies to recover their cumulative exploration and development costs at high recovery selling rate, and the government takes up to 70% in average. High internal rate of return and high present value that refer to low costs incurred for exploration and drilling, which is conducted by contractors that provide cheap services and inexpensive local labor. Also, the high contractors take, as it is presented in the previous slides. Yemen has uncomplicated regulations. that enable the foreign visitors to understand them and being in compliance with the local laws easily and properly. CAMPO thanks all who are interested to invest in Yemen, and thank you for assigning time to listen to this presentation. If you have any further inquiries, please don't hesitate to contact us to CAMPO's contact information that is presented at the end of this presentation. Thank you again.